issues concerning the U.S. government, but particularly we are focusing on what Donald Trump tweeted about land expropriation without compensation. If you missed it, the president asked his Secretary of State to closely study farm seizures as well as expropriations and, I quote, the large-scale killing of farmers. The State Department spokesperson saying that the president has in fact asked the Secretary of State to actually look into the state of action on land reform. She did, however, dismiss that the situation between South Africa and Zimbabwe are similar. She did say it's very different situations and that they are encouraging the government to peacefully carry out this issue of land in the country. Our U.S. correspondent Simon Marks joins us now live. Simon, of course, we have listened to that press conference. We know what they're saying. They are still going to look into the matter. There still seems to be some concern around how it's going to be handled in South Africa.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, look into the matter, but it's very unclear what else Mike Pompeo, the Secretary of State, is supposed to do. What we learnt in that press briefing is that the President and the Secretary of State have discussed the land issue in South Africa, she said, within the last day. Now, whether they discussed it before President Trump watched that Fox News report late on TV last night here, or whether they discussed it after the President saw that Fox News report, well, that's a tantalizing detail that she didn't disclose. There's certainly no evidence through anything else that the President has said over the last couple of days that he was even aware of the South Africa land issue prior to the transmission of that news report on the Tucker Carlson program on Fox last night. She completely sidestepped multiple questions that she was asked about whether the United States has actually witnessed expropriation without compensation taking place. She simply said, she ignored the question, and when it was asked, I think for the third or fourth time, she said that it was time to move on. And at that point, they moved on to other topics of international importance, and it's highly unlikely they're going to come back to the South Africa issue in the remainder of that State Department briefing. The way the briefing works is that subjects are segmented, and you get your opportunity to ask all your South Africa questions on this occasion in one chunk, and then she moves on to other topics. But she was pressed by one reporter in the room about what it means when President Trump says that he wants Mike Pompeo, the Secretary of State, now closely to study the situation regarding land in South Africa. And her response to that was, it was discussed with the President and he will focus on the issue, at which point a reporter said, well, what does focus mean? And she simply said, he will take a look at it. The other thing she confirmed is that the U.S. Chargé d'Affaires in Pretoria was called into the Foreign Ministry in South Africa today. She did confirm that that meeting had taken place, although she said she was unable to disclose any information about the content of the representations that were made to the U.S. Chargé d'Affaires, the senior most American diplomat in South Africa currently, given that there is no U.S. ambassador to the country. But we know that at least he was called in by Pretoria and perhaps wrapped over the knuckles. Interestingly as well, Heather Nauert, the State Department spokeswoman, who is herself, by the way, a former Fox News correspondent. She was taken to the State Department from Fox News when Rex Tillerson became Secretary of State. Now she serves as the press secretary for Mike Pompeo. She drew a distinction, a very clear distinction, between the situation in Zimbabwe and the situation in South Africa. She said the situation in Zimbabwe was a different situation altogether. And that was a rejection of the narrative that was presented by Tucker Carlson and his guest from the Cato Institute on the Fox News channel last night, which goes in a way to the complaint that Tucker Carlson was making on his program, namely that the Washington elites, as he put it, simply don't understand that the South African government is racist, and in the words of one of the guests on the Fox News channel last night, is taking South Africa down the road to hell. So that's a key distinction between Heather Nauert and the State Department and orthodoxy as it was presented by Fox News last night.
All right, thanks for the wrap of that press conference. Appreciate it. Simon Marks, our correspondent in Washington, D.C.